All right, Business Math Worksheet Day 34. Under the Business Finance, how to read, analyze, and interpret financial reports. And here we have a copy of an income statement. It says, complete the income statement for Jim Mason Auto Repair. So here's his revenue, and he had revenue of $220,000. Here are all the expenses. We want to find the total of the expenses. So basically, we're just going to go ahead and add up all those numbers. So $59,400 plus $33,000 plus $28,600 plus $15,400 plus $8,800 plus $4,620. And if we add all those up, we get $149,820. So the total of all their expenses, $149,820. Then wants to find the net income. If I'm going to find the net income, I'm going to take my revenue, $220,000. I'm going to subtract off my expenses, $149,820. And so if I subtract those two numbers, my total revenue, $70,180. And so just an example of an income statement where they've already done the revenue for you. You have to add up the expenses, and then the net income, the difference between the revenue and the expenses. So if we look at number two says again, complete the income statement for AAA Upholstery. Again, they gave you the service revenue of $220,000. They've listed all their different expenses for salaries, rent, supplies, utilities, advertising, and miscellaneous, and wants us to find the total. If we're going to find the total, we're just going to add up all our expenses. And so we have $59,400 plus $33,000 plus $28,600 plus $8,800 plus $4,620, which gives us, oops, I think I hit something wrong. Let's try that again. $59,400 plus $33,000 plus $28,600 plus $15,400 plus $8,800 plus $4,620 gives me $149,820. I think those are all the exact same numbers we had on the previous income statement. And so again, if we're going to find our net income, we're going to take the $220,000. We're going to subtract the $149,820. And we get $70,180. Computer doesn't always like to change things a whole lot. So if we look at number three, at least the numbers look different. We'll go ahead and do that one. Number three, again, complete the income statement. This time our service revenue is $160,000, and then we have all our expenses listed. And again, it wants us to find the total of the expenses, so we're going to add those up. So $43,200 plus $22,400 plus $17,600 plus $12,800 plus $9,600 plus $960. And so $106,560. Total of all my expenses. And then again, we want to find our net income, and so we're going to take our service revenue of $160,000. We're going to subtract off our expenses of $106,560. And so if I subtract, we get $53,440. Number 4, it says, based on the information contained in the income statement for Taylor Repair Company, calculate the supplies expense as a percent of the service revenue. So my supplies expense, so I'm going to look here, my supplies expense is right here, 13,200 as a percent of the service revenue. So I'm going to divide that by the service revenue. The service revenue is this one up here, 110,000. So if I take my 13,200, I divide it by my 110,000, I get 0.12. I have to take it times 100 to change it to a percent, so that would give me 12% for the supplies expense as a percent of the service revenue. The next one there says find the utilities expense. So the utilities expense, 8,800 as a percent of the service revenue again. So as a percent of my 110,000. So 8,800 divided by 110,000 gives me 0.08. If I change that to a percent, that's going to give me 8%. Then the next one there says the total expenses. So my total expenses, 77,000 as a percent of the service revenue again. So they're still using that 110,000. So 77,000 divided by 110,000 gives me 0.7. I got to times that by 100. Don't forget that moves it 2 places. 0.7 is 70%. So 70%. And then the last one says that we're going to do the net income as a percent of the service revenue. So my net income here is the 33,000 divided by my service revenue again, which is the 110,000. So 33,000 divided by 110,000 gives me 0.3, and then again I have to change it to a percent. So 0.3 is 30%. And so we got 12% for the supplies expense as a percent of the service revenue, 8% for the utilities expense as a percent of the service revenue, 70% for the total expenses as a percent of the service revenue, and then 30% for the net income as a percent of the service revenue. Number 5, it says, based on the information contained in the income statement for Hewlett's Landscaping Service, calculate the advertising expense as a percent of the service revenue, miscellaneous as a percent of the service revenue, total as a percent of the service revenue, and net income as a percent of the service revenue. So again, for all of those, we're dividing them by the service revenue, which is 170,000. So for advertising, 13,600 divided by my 170,000 then. So 13,600 divided by 170,000 gives me 0.08. Change it to a percent, so 8%. Then we're going to do the miscellaneous. The miscellaneous is 3,400 divided by my 170,000. So 3,400 divided by 170,000 gives me 0.02. Times that by 100 to change it to a percent. 2%, right? 3,400 wasn't very much of my thing. 2%. And then I'm going to do the total expense. So my total expense, 124,100 divided by my 170,000. So So 124,100 divided by 170,000 gives me 0.73. Again, we've got to change it to a percent, so 73%. And then the last one, the net income. So the net income was, 45,900, if I can read that right. So 45,900 divided by my 170,000. 45,900 divided by 170,000 is 0.27. So as a percent, 27%. So for the advertising expenses, we got 8%, miscellaneous 2%, total expenses 73%, and net income 27% of the service revenue. And number 6, same kind of thing. We're going to do our salaries as a percent of our service revenue, the supplies as a percent of the service revenue, total expenses as a percent of the service revenue, and net income as a percent of the service revenue. This time our service revenue, service revenue is $120,000. So salaries, 43,200 divided by 120,000. 43,200 divided by 120,000 gives me 0.36, which then as a percent would be 36%. And then we're going to do the supplies. So the supplies, 9,600. 9,600 divided by 120,000. 9,600 divided by 120,000 gives me 0.08 as a percent. So that's going to be 8%. Notice right underneath there was 9,600, the same number, 8%, 8%, right? They should be the same percent. So we know we probably did that one right. Then we're going to do the total expenses. The total expenses said we have 84,000 divided by our 120,000, or service revenue. So 84,000 divided by 120,000 gives me 0.7. And again, we've got to change that to a percent, which moves it 2 places. So 0.7 is 70%. And then the last one, we're going to do the net income. And so the net income was 36,000 divided by our 120,000. So 36,000 divided by 120,000 gives me 0.3. Again, as a percent, that moves my decimal 2 places, so it's 30%. And so salaries expense 36%, supplies expense 8%, total expenses 70%, and net income 30% of the service revenue. And that is the end of the worksheet, day 34. Again, with all these tables, it doesn't let me put very many on a page, so you only have 2 different kind of things here. But under the business finance, how to read, analyze, and interpret financial reports. So if you want to look for those 2 things.